You are listening to the You Get to Decide podcast with your host, Allison Cratchola Gallagher, episode number 3. Welcome to the You Get to Decide podcast. This is your life and business coach and host, Allison Cratchola Gallagher. I help all you high achievers out there feel content and confident so that you can feel happy now. Then you're just going to go out and create the life of your dreams faster. Through my journey, coaches have helped me completely transform my life, and now I get to help you do the same. Every week, we're going to talk tools, tips, and tricks to help you take consistent action based off the life you want. Because you really do get to decide your life. And I am here to remind you of that every week. So let's get started. So as I start to go into what it means for you get to decide, and I've kind of said some things in the first few episodes, but I think that it is such a mind shift for us when we're running in robot mode every day, just trying to keep up with our life and our kids and the demands and our job and whatever tasks we've put on our desk. We're so busy going from one task to the next that we never stop and think that we actually do get to decide our life. And I'm going to say it over and over and over and over. Some of the best books I've ever read repeated themselves 1,000 times inside the book. And it's so funny, in the reviews, people would complain about how repetitive the author was. But there is science behind how many times you have to hear something in order to first become aware of it, and then for it to really be digested into our brain, our mind, into our thinking pattern. So I am going to say it over and over again because I am in the same belief. I had to hear things 1,000 times or more before I really stopped to even ingest what was being said, because our brains run so fast that we don't hear something new in a way that it's meant to be given, right? So the powerful statement, you get to decide, will have to be heard a lot before the dots are connected that, yes, I'm speaking to you directly, whoever you are. I'm speaking directly to you. Yes, you have all the power. It doesn't matter how much is on your desk. Yes, you have the power, and I am talking to you about your own life, regardless of how many kids you have, regardless of your degree that you've gotten in college, regardless of what's going on with your parents. Yes, I am talking directly to all of you, because you do get to decide, no matter what your day looks like, no matter how many kids you have, no matter how much help you don't have, no matter how unsupportive your partner is, you still get to decide. And when you start to actually believe that, and you don't even need to be 100% in belief, when you hear that, and then you start to believe 10%, and then maybe there's 20% that you start to believe in that statement that I'm actually talking to you directly, your brain's going to start offering you ways to see the power you have in your decisions. It takes time. But I believe the more I say it, the more you'll start to inquire in your own brain, how do I get to decide in my own life? I'm going to give you tools, right? Tips, tricks, all the things. But it is up to you to believe that. And then what does that look like in your life? What are you unhappy with? What are you avoiding? Who do you want to be that you're not being because of I'm a victim of my life? But you really aren't. Now, it's once you see once you're in 100% belief that you get to decide your own life. Every which way, all day, you see it. You see it all day. And that's where the power really, it's like the rocket ship, right? And that's what coaching is. Coaching is helping you see your power, for sure. So, yes, hiring a coach will put you on that rocket ship, but you can do it on your own, okay? And this podcast is helping you in that repetitive manner remember where your power is, okay? And all the ways to see your power and take your power. So, with that being said, one of the first things that we definitely have to talk about is the pause. I don't know if you've ever heard the power of the pause or there's power in the pause, but literally there is so much power in the pause. I mean, I just have to say it. What happens is we are just on robot all day, every day, and we're not aware of our thoughts, right? So if we even want to stop to decide what actions we want to take to create the life we want, we actually have to separate ourselves from the hamster in the wheel, from being on robot, from one task to the next that goes on day in and day out, day in and day out. Slowing down, observing our thoughts, exercising, because it definitely is an exercise. It's not just get up one day and know of all of our thoughts. It's doing little things each day to create awareness of who we are, our behaviors, why we do what we do, right? And I feel like I've said this, but I remember, I have a binge eating disorder, and I remember as I became aware that I'm a binge eater, first of all, that's not normal or not healthy, or there's something that I'm unhealed in my body. And I remember trying to heal this. And something would trigger me to binge, and I'd be weeks into binging, days, weeks into binging, and be like, holy crap, I did it again. There was no pause. There was automatic response to something triggered me, shame, some type of discomfort, fear, shame, disappointment, whatever it was, would trigger me to eat. And it would be days, weeks into a binge. And I'd be like, holy crap, I did it again. And this was when I became aware that I could change it. I mean, this was years into it. So it was so automatic that I wasn't aware in that moment. I would automatically binge, and then it would be weeks where I'd be like, holy crap. I finally could pause. It would take weeks between the trigger and the binge. Weeks, months, sometimes. Oh, I did it again, right? Today, I've been practicing the pause so much. I am aware of my thoughts and my feelings all day. I am aware when I'm triggered to want to eat. There is so much pause now between the trigger and whatever behavior I don't want to. My brain's offering me a behavior, right? My brain offered me the behavior to binge, which is not healthy. But that's what my brain was offering me because there's a belief inside of me that is safety. I have to pause between the trigger, a certain feeling, a behavior, a circumstance would create the trigger for my brain to say, go binge. Sometimes it was punishment. Maybe I disappointed someone. I disappointed myself. I inconvenienced someone. There was a lot of different reasons why I would binge. My brain offered me a trigger, an urge to eat. And I would obey. Okay, I would obey that thought. The disruption of the pause, the awareness that that urge is there, is in the pause. It takes practice, okay? But the magic of that pause is an assessment. I'm feeling an urge to binge. Is that what I want to do? Is that really keeping me safe? All the questions. What else can I do in this moment? Why do I? Of course I want to binge. Well, that's what I did for all those years, right? But that's not who I am today. And I know that, you start to talk to yourself, right? There's a whole conversation I have with my little girl inside that sometimes that still wants to binge, okay? But pausing in the moment between when you're feeling an urge to have your several glasses of wine at night, but you know that's not who you want to be, and there's shame attached, and feeling like your powerlessness. You're not powerlessness. There is no powerlessness. There isn't. That's a belief, right? When I had this belief that I'm powerless over food, that is bullshit. I'm not powerless over anything inside of my body and my choices. Okay? But we feel powerless because we've given in so many times. What I offer is to put a note on your desk. Put a note on when you come home from work. There's so many different circumstances, situations. I'm using binge eating disorder, or if you don't want to come home and have 4 glasses of wine, but you continue to do it, you have to disrupt the pattern. And there has to be a pause. But your brain needs help. Your higher self, needs help to make that pause, because it is an automatic response the first few times. The first few months, it took me years, okay? But a lot of it I was doing on my own through books. Once I started to hire coaches, man, that shit would happen so fast. Now I look for that shit, man. I look for it. But if you're starting off trying to decide different actions in your life and disrupt old patterns, you have to be your own cheerleader, and we set yourself up for success. How do we do this? I would, if I was coming home and I didn't want to have 4 glasses of wine, this is a hard pattern to break. These are hard patterns, especially if it's something we've been doing for a long time and it served us in some way, okay? Takes the edge off. For me, it was, it's a sense of control. A lot of it is a sense of control. I don't have control of the uncertainty. I don't have control over what people thought of me, whatever. I didn't think I had control over the results of my life. And so you're trying to control something else. But if you want to come home and not have several glasses of wine, what if you left a note on your counter that just said, pause, okay? Or put a note on the bottle of wine, okay? Set an alarm in your phone that goes off when you get home, in the door. Because especially if you have kids, do you want your kids to see some of these things? And some of us do, and some of us don't. Set an alarm on your phone when you get home. And the alarm goes off every day, and there's a message. You have the power of choice right now. You've had a hard day, but what do you want to choose? When you go home, when your head hits the pillow tonight, how do you want to feel? Who do you want to be? There are ways to remind you to pause, to break up the automatic response that we've been on robot for so long. Your brain just automatically offers you that response. But little by little, When you pause, you become aware that there is a timeline between the thought and the next action you take. In that pause is where you get to decide your life. But you have to pause first, and you have to learn to pause. There are so many things in our day that are automatic now, especially if we're adults, like 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. These are things that we've been doing for decades. Okay? But that doesn't mean your brain is malleable. Okay? And it's going to show you what you want it to show you. If you start to tell it that you want to see where you can pause, you want to see the pause, you want to see the power of the pause, your brain's going to start offering you ways to do that. Okay? Hopefully it starts to tell you to listen to this podcast more and more, because this is going to train you to that in every moment of every day, you're going to be really aware that you get to decide where your power is, basically, throughout your day. And you're going to start to see how much power you have. If you wake up every day anxious and overwhelmed, and then you just go about your day that way, nothing's going to change. Nothing. You think that when your desk is empty, or when your partner behaves the way they should, or when your kids meet your expectations, or when you get the raise, you'll have less anxiety and overwhelm. But that's not true. You will always find something to be overwhelmed and anxious about, I promise you. The majority, I promise you, that it's an automatic response to life. It is an automatic response to life. So in the morning, if you want to wake up and not choose anxiety and overwhelm, write yourself a note next to your bed. The alarm on your phone. These are things that are more private that I'm thinking of, but when you get to work, have a note on your desk from your higher self, from your future self, or from the self that wants to heal, your self that wants to show up differently, your self that knows you're worthy, even if you didn't get the raise. Doesn't mean you're not worthy. Okay? Put a note on your desk when you go to work and you look at your desk and you sit down and you see that note. How can I pause today? Or just knowing on your lunch break that you're going to assess when your day slows down. Maybe it is at lunch, maybe it's whatever part of your day you can take a 5-minute break, because you can. Even if you set a 5-minute break on your phone, pause. How am I feeling? Check in with yourself. And the more you check in with yourself, you're going to create this new habit of checking in with yourself. You're going to create this habit of pausing. And then you get to shift your day. If you're waking up and say you end up in robot, whatever it is, it's the pattern that you're continuing that you want to change. But then you set an alarm on your phone for lunch, and you start to, and it reminds you to pause and assess. Oh, well, I felt like shit most of the day, and I was rude, and I feel anxious, and I'm in overwhelm, but I don't want to be. How can I choose differently in this moment? And a lot of that is tools, gratitude. My last podcast, I talked about sufficiency, checking in with ourselves, right? Or the pause of going to the refrigerator at work, or going down to the refrigerator when you know that there's going to be an office party and you don't want to eat the junk. You know that day is coming. Say it's, all right, next Friday it's so-and-so's birthday. They're going to have cake, but I know I don't want to eat it. Put an alarm clock in your phone for that morning, or the hour before you know that cake is going to be offered to you, or a weekend party. Put that alarm in your phone and write yourself a little note. Who do I want to be today? I get to pause. Let's decide. Just pause. Slow it down and assess what you want to decide to do next. This is so unbelievably powerful. This is where lives are changed. Because, I mean, it's the automatic shit that we have done that our brain just automatically offers us and we oblige. Okay? But that doesn't have to be. Okay? I've decided to make my brain my bitch. And when it offers me something, and we're not perfect at it, right? I'm a human being who's emotional. I'm a sensitive. I have highly sensitive tendencies, right? And so sometimes we react emotionally, and that's fine, okay? But when my brain offers me a thought, I'm like, does that thought serve me? Is that really what I want to do here? That becomes my automatic response over time. Because the neural pathways in our brain are the automatic responses, are our beliefs. The pathways, those neural pathways in our brain are grooves that we've created ourselves. Now, and they might come from beliefs from other people, but we've made decisions based on those beliefs. We can totally change the neural pathways in our brain. We can create new highways. If you don't believe this, look it up. It's science. If you don't believe me. No, I don't have a science degree, okay? But I know. I've done it. I've slowed it down to the point where I assess what my thoughts are. And I'm like, is that the neural pathway I want to make? Is that the automatic response I want to have? I get to decide what's next. Okay? And it takes time. But sometimes we don't even see the automatic responses because we're in it so deep that we don't see that that's what's sabotaging us. And I want this podcast to create awareness that you have all the power. But we're living so much in our lives. We're not looking at our lives. And that's where the patterns and decades go by and no changes are being made. And then the belief is, I am not worthy. It just doesn't happen for me. You know, they have the magic touch that I don't have. I'm not disciplined. All those things. But you can create a lifestyle that serves you and where you want to be. And it starts with pausing and looking at the behavior. So if there's a behavior that's going on in your day, every day, and you don't like that behavior, set up a new routine, which this is called Stacking Habits, but which I forget what book that's from, but set up a routine so that you are taking a pause between one habit to the destructive behavior. Especially if you are aware when that destructive behavior, pattern, habit comes over you. If you know as soon as you get into your car, you're going to want a cigarette, but you don't want to smoke, create a way to pause, a powerful moment, a note in your car. These are the things that I can think of. A note in your phone, a picture of your kids, your why, whatever your why is, should be found close by. That's going to pause whatever destructive behavior is going to come next. Okay, but first is awareness that the behavior is destructive and where it's coming from, where the habit is, and pausing. So stacking a habit, right? Between leaving the house and getting into your car and lighting the cigarette, you create a pause to remind you, because there's going to be days where it is absolutely automatic and you're going to smoke 3 cigarettes and be like, shit, I did it again. right? Or you're going to come home from your day of work and there's going to be food on the counter, your kids left over, whatever, and you're going to be eating it and you're going to be like, shit, I did it again. But listen, it's okay. We're going to, as on the road to being someone different, there's going to be setbacks. That old us rears its head. That's a part of the freaking process. And people get so upset with themselves because they make it mean they're failing. No. You are poking holes in a neural pathway that is run so deep in your brain. Poking holes is leaving yourself a note, is 2 days you're coming home and drinking the glass of wine, and 2 days you're not. And then you're back to 2 days you are, 3 days, 4 days you are, and then 1 day you're not. You are poking holes in a very deep, rigid belief system and automatic response, okay? In order to hit this another way, start to look at what the beliefs are. Why do I have to get into my car and smoke a cigarette? Now I understand it's physical, right? There's a physical addiction too, but a lot of it, I've never smoked, but I've heard people say that the emotional habit is worse than the physical habit. And if that's the case for you, what is the belief system? Why do I need a cigarette when I get into my car? Why do I need a glass of wine at the end of the day? Oh, I've gotten through the day. I'm safe at home. These are some of the things that I think for me, but oh, now I got to deal with sports and the kids, and now I got to make dinner, and now my second shift starts, or F my boss for what they said to me, or maybe it's another day of avoiding my dreams, of not starting my business, of not writing my book that I know I meant to write. Okay? And if you're avoiding something and that's why you're drinking or eating or Facebooking, right? I don't want to come home and spend 3 hours on Facebook, right? Then you're going to pause. I would put my screen saver on my phone or my home screen, a note, right? My home screen says things you don't want to do, but that will change your life. This is my home screen on my phone. And my daughter's like, why don't you have Harper, our dog, as your home screen, right? Everybody knows how much I love my dog. Well, because that I don't. What do I have on my phone? Things you don't want to do, but that will change your life. Go to sleep earlier. Use airplane mode. Move your body. Have difficult conversations. Set boundaries. Ask for feedback. Build self-awareness. Accept different opinions. Go for an undistracted walk outside. Do the thing you're putting off. Work on your mindset. That's what my home screen is. If you put something on your home screen to remind you to pause, so that when you go on there to sit on Instagram for an hour, we need to set ourselves up for success. And that is leaving ourselves little messages all day about pausing to even assess what our thoughts are telling us to do so that we're not on automatic. So going back to belief, we can tackle at the same time. We do have to tackle the belief that's creating that automatic response, and that belief is very deep. Most likely, you may not know it at first, okay? But I would start to journal. Why am I coming home to have a glass of wine? Do I like my reasons? And be very honest. Do you like your reasons for why you're doing what you do? Maybe assess your day. At the end of the day, you have 10 minutes. I promise you have 10 minutes at the end of the day to assess what went on. And patterns or things that you did throughout that day that stick out to you, is there's some pain, it's painful maybe. Or maybe it's not, taking you on the road to your goals, and you know that. What are the reasons why you do those things? Do you like your reasons? And that's when you're going to start to look at, why do I do what I do? Journal, lots of journaling, okay? Do I like my reasons? And if not, what can I do differently? And when we really start to show our brain that we don't like why we're doing what we do. The automatic response is coming from such a deep belief that could be from 3 generations ago. Right? So you want to show your brain that your reasons for doing this are shitty. And these are going to poke holes in that neural pathway. Okay? And then when you wake up the next day, you have a lot more awareness of what's ahead of you that could come over you, those automatic responses. And you don't like the reasons why you're doing them anymore. What can you do differently? But then throughout the day, you may have to remind yourself so that you do pause before you hit that automatic response, that behavior, that urge to freak out on your kids, right? The urge to delay, to talk yourself out of the workout. Do I like my reasons why I've talked myself out of my workout? Be honest. If it's yes, I want to spend the whole day with my mother today, then great. If you like your reasons, go for it. But if you get really honest with yourself and your reasoning is to escape, to avoid, to, with me, it was protecting myself from the pain. I'd eat to protect myself from pain. What? It is so much easier to feel the pain, sit with it, let it pass through me, than to binge for weeks. Right? It doesn't make any sense when you pause and you look at it and you analyze it. But in those moments, it becomes. Right? And then now I have an urge and I'm like, okay, well, what is this urge coming from? Am I hungry? Most of the time I'm not hungry. It's an escape in some way. Maybe there's something on my desk I don't want to take care of. I don't want to do. Maybe it's, something that I have a belief somewhere that this is going to be painful, difficult, scary. I could make a mistake. What if I'm not good enough? And what if I just hit those feelings head on and I hit those thoughts head on? Because that's what I do now. Well, is this really scary? Okay, it might be vulnerable. Starting a podcast is vulnerable. But I have a desire and it's in there every day. And then every once in a while I talk about it or someone would say to me, you should have a podcast. I've thought about having a podcast since like 2020. And then I just decided that today was the day. And I'll figure it out as I go. I have a whole lot to say, even though my brain told me I didn't. But I had so much proof that I had a lot to say. Right? And so instead of anytime I thought about that I haven't created my podcast yet, and that's what I should be doing, don't should on yourself. Then going to the fridge to delay, to procrastinate, I'll do it tomorrow. And then the pain of deciding to do it tomorrow, I'm just making up an example, but these are the things I would eat over. So then I started to pause. Well, is this worth eating over? Is this worth the glass of wine? Is this worth skipping my workout? Is this worth delaying writing my book or building my business or learning about sales or tackling my finances? Is this worth the delay? You get to decide, right? You get to decide if it's worth it. But like your reasons for why you do what you do. All this comes from pausing to actually assess who we are, what we're doing, why we're doing it, and do we like why we're doing it? Then, once we analyze all that, what if you decided ahead of time what your day is going to look like? What if you decided ahead of time how you want to feel and just choose to feel that way, regardless of what your partner says to you, regardless of what your kids do, regardless of what's in your bank account. And how about regardless of what else your brain offers you? If I decide to feel good today, because even today, I woke up feeling like shit. And I found all the reasons why I should feel like shit. My brain, my own brain, was offering me reasons to feel like shit. I overrode that. And I decided that I'm going to love my life today, that I'm going to love whatever's on my desk, and no matter how shitty it feels, I'm going to do what's in front of me. And I'm going to do my best to feel good doing it. I overrode my own brain this morning. And I love what my coach said. I just like who I am when I have happier, believing thoughts. I just like who I am, feeling better with better thinking thoughts or better feeling thoughts. But it does all start with the pause. I had to pause this morning to look at my thoughts. I do some thought work in the morning. Okay, what do I want to believe today? What does my higher self believe? In order to get something done, what do I have to feel, think, and do? Okay, I ask myself some questions in the morning. I pause. I do it in the morning. Sometimes I have to stop in the middle of the day and assess because I've been derailed by my own brain or by a phone call or a text or an email comes in and I'm like, shit. Right? And then I feel like shit and then my day spirals. But no, I can check in. Do I want to feel like shit over this? I know that my brain likes to catastrophize, but there's some result out there that my brain's offering me that's going to happen, which is probably never a good result. It's usually a negative result. Do I want to live in the future when everything is good right now? This all takes practice, right? So even though a shitty email comes in and it might derail me for a half hour, I know I get to decide. I get to decide if I want to believe what's going to happen in the future is bad or good. And I just like myself more when I believe whatever's happening is going to be for the good of me and all mankind. So I hope if you are struggling with even pausing, come back to this podcast. I've given you some solutions to help you pause from that automatic response, but you can create your own. Google it. Like Chat GPT it. I didn't do that. I probably could have, right? To offer more. But these are some things that come up in my coaching calls. When my clients want to get on a sales call, but they are trying to change their beliefs about them and how they sell or about the client on the other end, I have them pause. Write yourself a letter on your desk. Pause. How do you feel picking up that phone to make that call? Pause. If you're feeling dread, don't make the call. Just try to get to a place of neutrality or even excitement for who you're going to serve. You can make that call in dread, but it's probably not going to go as good as if you paused, reset, went into a place of sufficiency, and then almost into a place of excitement to serve. Your energy is going to be very different, and the words that come out of your mouth are going to be very different. So even pausing from the time you get home to the time your kids get home. If you don't want to start barking at your kids, pause. And like a 3-minute breathing exercise and a meditation. How do I want to show up for my kids today? Do I have to bring my meeting that I had at work today that went like shit into my evening with dinner with my family? No, I don't have to. I want to show up differently. How can I do that? And just sit and meditate on it. And get to a place of sufficiency in your body that you need nothing from your kids, you need nothing from your boss, and you need nothing more from anyone that day in order to just feel good. How can I feel good? And look at the ways that you just throw out a little gratitude list before your kids walk in the door or on driving home. I'm telling you, the more you do this, the more your brain is going to offer you ways to do this, because your brain wants to serve you. It's going to show you the evidence of what your beliefs are. If you have the belief that you get to decide, and you start to, at first it might be a 5% belief, a 10% belief, a 15% belief. Little by little, your brain is going to show you ways you get to decide. And you have to be aware of them. When I have new thoughts, I'm like, holy shit, my brain just offered me this amazing thought that I've never had before that serves me so well. But I was opening to listening to it because I know with all of my fiber in my body that I get to decide my life. And so my brain is going to show me ways, because my brain, my prefrontal cortex, which is my higher self, with my dreams and goals, knows that that's the decisions I want to make, is to get to be that person. My brain knows that that's what I want to see. So that's what it shows me. And then I'm like, wow, thank you, brain. You just offered me that amazing thought. I am going to go do that. Or if there's a failure, my brain doesn't offer me I'm a failure anymore. It took a lot of time. But I'm going to give you a quick story, and then I'm going to wrap up. I was talking to, talk to a lot of women. Okay. I have a lot of women friends. I talk to a lot of women. I coach a lot of women. I help a lot of women in business. And my brain offered me this crazy thought. Okay. And I'm going to go into this in another podcast, and I'm definitely I wanted to start this podcast with my husband. He's like, I don't have time. Because I believe the banter between me and my husband would be an epic podcast. But I'm going to just give you this story briefly. So my husband is on me about how much I vacuum. I'm not super domesticated. I keep a nice, neat, clean house, I think. But my husband always needs me to raise the bar. His bar is way higher. And I laugh with all the women. Okay. I had a conversation with a woman 2 weeks ago about her $3,000 vacuum cleaner. And I don't know if she's listening, but she's going to laugh when she hears this. She has a $3,000 vacuum cleaner. And I'm like, what? Like, holy crap. Right. And then she gets upset with her husband that he doesn't value it. He doesn't value vacuuming, all the things. Right. My husband researched our vacuum cleaner. He bought the vacuum cleaner. And I'm going to generalize. I'm going to stereotype. Okay. This is a little bit of comedy, a little bit of my experience, but I'm very much like a lot of the husbands that we hang out with. And my husband can be a lot like the wives in that the housework, my husband doesn't let me do his laundry. Now my daughter watches how I do laundry, though she's always grateful when I do her laundry. But my husband, he's the one that researched the vacuum cleaner, right? And I was laughing with this woman and I've said this in so many rooms, in so many social settings, that my husband is like the wife in so many ways. I can be aloof. My mind is always on my business. I have to be reminded of things. I'm very much squirrel. I need lists. My husband has to remind me about doctor's appointments. And generalizing, from my experience and what I've read, a lot of times this is how the husband is, right? Well, my brain, and I carry some shame about the type of mother I am, the type of wife I am, that my brain would tell me I'm broken. I'm not good enough. I'm not made to be a mother. I don't have that nurturing in me. My brain would always offer me these thoughts. My daughter is 12. My brain offered me a lot of shitty thoughts about the type of mother and wife I am, because I'm married to someone who remembers more, like the doctor's appointments, the dentist. He has to remind me to make the appointments. And so I'm like, I'm broken. There's something wrong with me. Okay. Now my brain said, what my brain said to me? And I thought that this was so fascinating. My brain said, the reason that you are like the husbands and the dads is because for all the women that you help and all the women that you coach, you are offering the husband side, the partner side, whatever, that the partner that maybe needs to be pulled along a little bit, that's not as domesticated. Male, female, okay? But all the wives that talk to me about the disappointment they have or the struggles in their relationships, I am the neutral face of the husband, of the dad, of the partner that doesn't measure up domestically, with vacuuming, with maybe there's more aloofness, has to be reminded of things. I coach women on looking at their partner more neutrally than coming from a place of resentment. And I can do that because I'm offering that side of the street. It doesn't mean I'm not trying to do my best. Sometimes I need some extra help. I am better in other ways. And so what my brain offered me was, God made me this way so I can connect to the other partner and explain maybe where they're coming from in a more neutral way than them screaming and yelling at each other. And I can't tell you how many women I've spoken to that I've helped them see that their partner, and it happened to be their husband, was where they were coming from. And it helped de-escalate their rage, de-escalate their resentment, and just have more compassion. And my brain offered me that this is why you're built this way, so that you can be the neutral outlet resource that they can come to absolutely understand their partner. And I thought that thought that came to me was so beautiful. Instead of you're broken. You're broken like their spouses are. One's better than the other. You're not a good mom. Why can't you be better? And my brain still offers me that, and sometimes I listen. But when my brain offered me the thought that I've made this way to connect with women or men in a way that they're the doer, and they want the house to be spick and span. They're crazy over the cleaning. My husband would get on me about how much I vacuum, right? I am the source that they can come to understand their spouse better, and so that they can have more compassion and curiosity for them of why they do what they do and why they don't value things the way the $3,000 vacuum cleaner. What a beautiful way to think about who I am and why I am. It's to serve. I was aware of the thought, and then I owned it as my truth, and it made me so happy. That thought is way better feeling than your husband is a better mother than you are. That thought doesn't serve me. It doesn't serve my husband, and it doesn't serve my daughter. If I show up thinking I'm less than, I'm going to doubt every decision I make, and I'm going to beat myself up. And then I'm probably going to be angry to everybody I talk to. Right? Instead, I am built this way to serve, to connect, for wives that I speak to, for them to let go of their resentment. I just loved that thought. I was grateful that my brain offered it to me. I'm grateful that I listened. I heard it. I actually heard the thought. And then I was like, yep, this is totally my truth, and I love it. That doesn't mean I don't want to show up better for my husband and my daughter. I always do. But it doesn't mean that I'm incapable, that I'm just broken, that I'm just less than. I'm just not cut out to be a good mom. No. It's just on my way to being my best self, I get to help others connect with their spouse of why they show up the way they show up. I hope that makes sense. And that was a pretty long story. But because I've practiced the pause, I actually can hear what my thoughts are, what my brain is offering me. And my brain starts to offer me different thoughts because I've created different habits. And I've shown my brain who I want to be. And I just wanted to give that little example that I heard that thought. And then I owned it. I'm like, yep, that's the thought I want to believe. So I'm just going to start to believe that. And that creates excitement for me of who I am. And then, yes, I want to be better. But I'll always be able to relate to the spouse that isn't as clean or doesn't vacuum. I talk to so many women and they're like, my house has to be clean every second of every day. And, I'm like, no, that's not me, And none of it's good and bad. It's just meeting in the middle as a partnership and meeting people where they are in their partnership. So, I don't know. So that's it for today. Practice the pause. There's a ton of books, Power in the Pause, all the things. You have to practice the pause in order to actually, for your brain to offer you to pause. You have to create actions to pause. And then your brain's going to offer you ways to pause. It's not just going to automatically do it. It's going to go to the automatic response, the wine, the food, the talking ourselves out of the workout, the talking ourselves out of our raise, talking ourselves out of starting our business, talking ourselves out of writing the book. Let's pause. When my head hits the pillow at night, do I want to have worked on my book for 15 minutes? Yes. 15 minutes is better than nothing. Avoiding. Okay? So you can do this. I have faith in you that you can do this, and I hope this resonates. All this is connecting to you get to decide your life. And so that's it for today. I will see you next time. Hold up. Before you go, are you ready to accelerate the road to your goals? Or have you lost momentum and need some extra help? Or maybe you just know you're meant for more but don't know where to start. I can help you. I invite you to a free call with me where we're going to talk about where you are and where you want to be. And at the end of that call, you're going to have a ton of clarity, you're going to feel relieved, and you're going to know the steps to take to get you where you want to go. And then you decide if working with me is the right fit or not. No sweat. Go to my website, AllisonGallagher.com/coaching, or the link to my calendar and to connect with me is in the show notes. It is time to stop dreaming about the life you want and start taking steps in that direction. Let's go. This is Allison Cratchola Gallagher and the You Get to Decide podcast. Thanks for listening. I'll see you guys later.